It's the middle of July at the moment. We're having a lovely heat wave this week, so I thought I'd do some filming up on my roof garden. The garden's looking really nice since I last included it in the vlog. This fern right here had almost completely died away while I was in Mexico, so I cut it back to kind of nothing probably about, I don't know, a month and a half ago, something like that, and it's already back to its kind of original huge size. All my flowers are doing really, really well. When it's this hot, it's kind of a struggle to keep everything watered. I have several window boxes in this house, plants up on the roof, front and back garden, and a lot of house plants, and when it's hot, to kind of keep everything watered does take a bit of time. What I thought I'd talk about on this episode is the house that I live in, because I talked about a little bit in the last episode about my studio, my workspace that got redecorated, and I kind of wanted to talk about the rest of the house because of this thing that people always say that people kind of only show the best of their lives in public arenas, and I kind of wanted to talk about the building. You can probably see from this window right here that the house isn't always in the best condition, and my studio looks amazing at the moment, and I was kind of worried it might give a false impression of how I kind of live. So I'm just going to talk about the house that I live in, the area that I live in, and what it's really like to live in London on a part-time wage. As everyone probably knows, living in London is not cheap, especially if you're kind of in the arts or you work part-time. We got very lucky with this house. We actually live in a 5-bedroom terrace house in South London. Up until quite recently, we've always had 5 housemates, my partner and I, and then 3 other people. A little while back it went down to 4, and it's actually now going to go down to 3. And we're kind of hoping to maintain just the 3 of us sharing the house, because we're a really nice little group of 3 at the moment, and we get on really well, and we don't want to disrupt that, which means we're going to be paying more each for rent, but I kind of feel like it's worth it. It's such an affordable rent compared to most other people that I know of in London, that even though the rent is going up for me, it's still kind of on a par with what people pay for a really small 1-bedroom flat in most parts of London, most of the people that I know anyway. Obviously most people that kind of cohabit as a couple, the ideal is that you have a place to yourself. I've never experienced that. I've always been part of a flat share or a house share, whether I've been living with a partner or not, apart from times that I've been travelling. And we're well aware that for the cost that we pay for this renting this property, that we would only get something very small if we were to move into a place, just the 2 of us. So yeah, there's 3 of us living in a 5-bedroom house. We've got a garden, front and back, very small at the front, but we've got a back garden. We've got a roof area, which is where I'm sitting right now, where you can come out and enjoy the sun. And it's incredibly rare if you live in a rented property in London that you have any kind of outdoor space at all. You might have a tiny balcony if you're lucky, but other than that, it's kind of like communal outdoor areas attached to apartment buildings, blocks of flats, or you just have to go to a park basically to spend time outdoors. So we do love this. The house is pretty old. It's in a kind of a state of disrepair. So things like the carpets are a bit of a state. They're very old. They've been there for God knows how many years. They're stained. They're kind of ripped in the hallways. We've had roof leaks. We've had mouse invasions that we've had to kind of like go through the whole house and deal with. I mean, this has nothing to do with me, by the way. This is just the kind of thing we tend to stick a rug on top of it and try and forget about it. Yeah. But the thing is that it's affordable for us, and our landlord is a great guy. We really, really like him. He's great in an emergency. He will come round if something's really important. But he does cut corners when it comes to maintaining the property. But at the same time, we want to be able to continue to afford this place. So the way we kind of manage it is we don't ask him for a lot. We do what we can to kind of keep the building ticking over. Because when you're renting a property, you don't own it. There's only so much of your own time and money that you want to pour into kind of improving the place. We have kind of painted certain rooms occasionally and things like that, but in terms of ripping carpets up, that would just be a lot of money to put into it when we've got no guarantee of how long we're going to be able to stay here. But with the news that we're going down to 3 sharing this house, we decided we would tackle a massive project that has been kind of neglected for years and years, which is the back garden. We haven't bothered before because we like the roof. It's kind of really lovely up here. The garden's a little bit overshadowed by trees, and what we've generally done is every year it grows up in the spring with weeds, like horrible weeds like nettles, brambles, and all kinds of things like that. It grows to kind of shoulder height, and we spend like a few hours one day chopping all that down and throwing that garden waste away, and then we just kind of leave it until the next year. We've always kind of shied away from doing too much with it because it's such a huge job, but now that there's 3 of us living here together and we get on really well, we've decided we want to try and sort it out. So we've cleared it, and a few weeks ago we planted some grass seed to try and get a lawn going. It's going okay. There's a lot of weeds coming up with the baby grass that's growing, so I don't quite know how that's going to work out. It's kind of too much that you could actually weed it by hand. So, but I guess what I've read is that the grass is supposed to kind of take over eventually and block the weeds from kind of coming up in between. So I'm hoping that's going to happen. So I'll keep you informed on how that goes. But it's actually kind of fun. Now that we're finally dealing with it properly, we've come up with a little plan, a design for the garden. It will take a few years to kind of start looking nice, I think. But we're planting some things out there for kind of colour throughout the year, all this proper gardening stuff that I've never really done. I mean, I love to grow my plants up here on the roof, but as I've said before, I think on the vlog, I do it kind of spring and summer, and then I just kind of let it all die away for the rest of the year and then bring it back to life the following spring. So it'll be kind of a fun challenge to see if we can get a proper garden going at the back. I mentioned in the last episode that my partner Sergio had bought some new furniture for the studio. There's also a lot of furniture in there that we've got very cheap in the past, like 2 kind of armchairs that we've got from local second-hand shops that haven't cost very much money at all. We've also got bits of furniture that we've kind of cobbled together, we've adapted. Like I've got a cutting table, I think I showed that in the vlog, which was basically a chest of drawers that we pulled the drawers out, chucked them away, put shelves in, and a surface for me to sort of cut down sheets of paper on the top. So a lot of the stuff we have isn't like expensive brand new furniture, it's kind of stuff that over the years we've collected and adapted and kind of made work for us. Similarly, a lot of stuff in the garden. I'll show you in a minute. I've got 2 kind of barrel style planters. This fern is planted in one of them, that basically someone on my street left out. They were getting rid of them, and at the same time they left out 3 pieces of trellis that I took as well. London's kind of great for that. People throw things out all the time, and they usually put things on the pavement just to see if anyone will take them or wants them before they'll get them collected. So yeah, I've got some useful stuff, and we've got a couple of lounge chairs for the garden that we just picked up from our road that someone was getting rid of. they're not the most amazing kind of rust-free chairs that you've ever seen, but you know, it saves us having to buy those. And it's also kind of fun to, you know, take something that was going to go into landfill and kind of adapt it and make it nice again. We've painted one of the trellis panels and put it in the window of my studio. I think you saw that probably last time as well. So it's nice to make things look nice when they were just going to go in the bin. So as I mentioned, these are the two kind of barrel style planters that I got for free. I really love these because a lot of the pots I have are plastic and I don't especially like the way they look, but really lovely garden, like ceramic garden pots, are quite expensive. This white plant here, I don't even know what this is called, but I've never seen this in the garden before. And something I love in my garden is when stuff just appears that has, you know, blown in on the wind, and I didn't plant it myself, but it grows up anyway. And I always leave things a little bit wild in the garden. I like to leave a mixture of stuff that I've planted deliberately and stuff that's just appeared. This plant here is called Desdemona. I've had this for a few years and I actually bought it. I went to a garden centre to get a few plants for the garden in a year when Othello was playing at the theatre that I work in. So I felt inspired to buy Desdemona because it just seemed kind of apt. Oh, look at this little guy. These pale pink flowers here and these little blue ones actually came from a botanic garden in Scotland that I went to with my mum, and they had a thing where you could give them a few pounds donation and help yourself to some of their seeds. So I brought some back to London with me. These are the only ones that I think have come back this year. That was a few years ago, but they're all over and they're really lovely. It's nice that they're continuing. Actually, no, I don't think that's right. I think these ones over here, which haven't quite flowered yet, those are also from the Scottish gardens. Down here I've got what looks like a baby oak tree. I had one of these, I've had quite a lot of them in the past, and one year I tried to turn one into a bonsai. It actually lasted quite a few years, but it did die recently. So I'm wondering whether I might take this one and try the same thing again. This one here is a passion vine. I've had that for quite a few years, and every year it kind of dies back and then grows again really quickly once it gets warm. And I'm thinking I'm going to maybe move this down to the back garden because it can grow all over the fence, and I think that would look really nice. The area of London that I live in is kind of South London. It's traditionally kind of a little bit rough and ready, this area, and it has gentrified a bit over the last few years. We've had a few people move into the street that I live on who seem to have struggled with the nature of this part of London and the fact that it's kind of noisy. I think anyone that's lived in a big city knows that it's always noisy, and that there's never a lot that you can do about it. You might be able to see scaffolding at the back. We've had built, houses on this street having their roofs redone and things over the last 6 months or so. There's just constant noise. There's some flats at the back of the property where they have parties quite regularly. And I actually kind of like them. They're really kind of community-spirited parties. They do stuff for the kids. They have bouncy castles. but they are incredibly loud. Like when I say loud, it's like sound system kind of loud. And we've had people that have moved onto the street knocking on our door asking, about the noise and whether it bothers us. And honestly, I quite like that those flats have that sense of community and that they enjoy spending time together when it's sunny. They're generally pretty respectful. They stop at a decent time, not always, but usually, and they don't do it every weekend. So I just think when you live in a city, you have to expect a certain level of noise. There's just constantly building work, road repaving, sirens. We live on a street which is like a major A road through London, so the siren noise is kind of constant, helicopters and things. So yeah, that's just city life really. Quick work update for you on my various creative projects that I'm working on. As I mentioned before, I've been kind of slogging away at the rough pages for my next book. So you can see here, amidst other things that I've been working on, little comics for my social media online and for Patreon. I've been doing these rough pages for my book. Just over a quarter of the way through, and I'm really looking forward to getting on to the next stage of taking these rough ideas and then making them look really beautiful. I can't wait for that. Another thing that occurred to me I might have forgotten to update you on was my plan. I can't remember which episode of the vlog I mentioned this on, but I talked about wanting to get into the habit of doing my accounting on a monthly basis, and I'm pleased to say that since I mentioned that, I've stuck to my plan of having an accounting day once a month where I get my accounts for the previous month up to date. And it's going really well. It's kind of, don't know why I didn't do it before. It's so much easier to kind of remember what payments were when it was only a month ago rather than 6 months ago. So that's going really well. And it just goes to show it can be kind of helpful to have something like this vlog where I say to you guys that I want to make something happen or change a habit, and then I actually do it, because then I can report back on it. So having that accountability really seems to work, which is great. So thank you for watching and encouraging me to stick to my plans that I talk about on here.